Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Right now we're gonna watch Geography Now's Mexico. Now I watched this the other day. It was recommended to me, and it was I was pretty excited. Like I had a hard time not watching this video first because I think it's gonna be like a summary of Mexico, and I want to see if they get it right or if I learn something. I think I'm gonna learn something. Believe it or not, it's not like I'm that into Mexican history, so. Maybe I learn stuff, and maybe, we get to, like, if he gets a few things wrong, we can also correct that. But I'm excited, man. It has a 1.5 million views. Yeah, and by the way, I saw his channel, and he has, like, episodes about countries. So I guess this is what he does, and, like, this is what's the video gonna be about. Like, just talking about Mexico as a country. So yeah, let's go. Oh gosh, I'm excited. Not gonna lie.
Finalmente hemos llegado al episodio
Oh,
de
he's speaking
México.
Spanish.
Pero no puedo hacer esto sin un mexicano de verdad. Denle la...
Okay, that was like a 6 out of 10 Spanish. Like, he knows how to speak it. He just has a very, very thick accent. I mean, I have an accent, right? We all have, but that one is very thick.
Bienvenida a mi amigo César de Puerto Vallarta.
So of course,
Hola,
you gotta
buenas
have a
tardes a
Mexican
todos.
guy.
César, si tuvieras que decir una cosa de México para abrir...
It's okay, it's
este
great. He's
episodio,
English.
¿cuál sería?
Pues México es un país místico, colorido, lleno de cultura y tradiciones.
Ah,
México va
BS, dude.
mucho más allá que el mariachi y el tequila
Oh, that's
solamente. Pronto les contaremos.
Bueno. Oh, yeah, and he speaks English too.
Oh, yeah, I went to college in Texas, so a little bit.
It's time to learn geography.
Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbs.
And I'm Cesar.
As you know, I'm American, Cesar's Mexican. We're neighbors. I'm excited. You excited?
Yes, I'm very excited for this episode. I've been following Geography Now since like the BC countries, so this is something I've been waiting for a long time now.
Oh, by the way, we stopped doing sponsored brands on country episodes, but this time we'll break that rule because Cesar can hook you up in Puerto Vallarta. Cesar, tell them what they need to know.
Yes, well, visit discoverpbr.com. Check it out. Tours, transportation, transfers, everything you need.
And Geography Now endorses them. All right, comenzamos.
Sí, bienvenidos a México. Named after the Mexica people from ancient Aztec times, Mexico is a powerhouse on the world stage.
And it's hard to imagine how the entire Latin
Kind
world,
of,
let
I
alone
guess.
the Western Hemisphere, would operate without it. First of all, Mexico is located on the southern part of the North American continent, straddling the Pacific Ocean, Gulf of California, and the Gulf of Mexico, bordered by the US to the north and Guatemala and Belize to the southeast.
The country is divided into 32 federal entities, 31 states, one of which is called Mexico, and the capital city of Mexico City.
That's kinda
and
hilarious.
Mexico City is technically sinking about 10 to 20 centimeters a year because it was built on a lake.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's true. A lot of reasons we have earthquakes in Mexico City, it's because I'm not a scientist, okay, but the floor, like the ground that Mexico City is situated on, it's kind of like mud. Like, Mexico City is literally built on mud. So like earthquakes, they're maybe not that powerful, but they feel like they are powerful because, again, the ground is just so unstable. So maybe the earthquake itself is not that bad, but it has huge repercussions because of how the way Mexico City is built. Just kind of an interesting fact over there.
with a greater metropolitan population over 21 million, Mexico City is the
Jeez.
largest city and oldest
That's a
capital
lot
city
of
in the
people.
entire Western Hemisphere, and in itself has about the same GDP and economy as the entire country of Peru.
After Mexico City, though, the next largest cities are Guadalajara in Jalisco and Monterrey in Nuevo León. And if you come
Cool
here,
places.
you will most likely fly to one of the busiest airports.
The capital's Mexico City International, then the second place is
Oh,
actually
it's Cancun.
then Guadalajara and Monterrey Internationals. Yeah, we Americans love Cancun and we love going there all the time.
And we do too. Just clean up your vomit next time, okay?
No promises. Today, Mexico has no territorial disputes. They did once with France over
Oh,
Clipperton
really?
Island, but
I
that
didn't
got
knew that.
settled. Otherwise, the border with the U.S., yeah, we know what you're thinking, but hear me out. It actually does have some quirky anomalies.
For example, on the border with Tijuana, there's a friendship park where you can chat and shake hands with locals of both sides through a fence that goes all the way into the Pacific.
Further east
Sorry
in
about
California, two towns split by the border kind of trolled each other. One named itself Mexicali and the other side Calexico.
And in Naco, Arizona, the local residents have a cross-border volleyball game.
Oh yeah, I've seen those
No,
memes.
we don't want-
I thought they were memes, like people playing volleyball on the border. I thought it was a joke, but hey, it appears to be real.
To sugarcoat everything, yes, there are certain sections that are more barricaded and strict on the crossings, but besides the complicated nature behind these issues, there's a lot more to it than most media outlets portray. Speaking of territorial anomalies,
In the southernmost state of Mexico, Chiapas has some interesting towns that operate under a system called usos y costumbres, which means something like autonomous customary law. The people, mostly of indigenous descent, govern their own internal affairs, and the government just kind of lets them do their own thing without interference. It sounds kind of scary, but today it's actually kind of a
I kind of knew that. I live in the Mexico City metro in a city called Puebla, so it's not like I hear a lot about that part of the country. I just know that it's very rural, very indigenous, and very kind of independent. That region has always been trouble for Mexico. Although it's a beautiful region, and it's one of our most populous states, if I'm not
dark fascination that has drawn
mistaken.
in a ton of tourists.
and finally, let's just get it over with. Just like how we discussed in the Italy episode, everybody knows about it, it's nothing new. To a varying degree of power and disputable boundaries, yes, certain areas of Mexico do still kind of fall under cartel influence. It's a very strange system run by underground do still kind of fall under
Let's see that
cartel.
map. Let's see that map. That's the Jalisco New Generation. Yep. Sinaloa Cartel. Yep. Gulf. Yep. Los Zetas. Yeah, pretty much. I think so. Juarez Cartel, just in the city of Juarez. Tijuana, again, just in the city of Tijuana. With the Jalisco New Generation, gaining grounds. Beltran Leiva organization, have no idea what this is about. Yeah, interesting, and no major cartel presence. It's kind of like this part, then disputed territory. So this is disputed. This has no major. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm not an expert on this type of thing. It's just interesting. to me.
Influence. It's a very strange system run by underground individuals that kind of meshes itself into normalcy.
You should watch. For you to understand it a little better, you can watch Narcos, on Netflix. Literally, it's really good, and it really helps a lot with understanding how the whole situation works.
Everyday citizens.
There are syndicates like the Cartel of Sinaloa in the northwest, the Zetas in the northeast, the Familia Michoacana in the center of the country, and the Jalisco Nueva Generación in the west.
Caesar, I'll let you explain this.
Today, it's very hard to estimate how many people are still involved and how much money is coming out, since numbers are always changing, especially after the war was declared on the cartels by the government in 2006 by President Calderon. But for what it's worth, the situation is still being dealt with today. Most Mexicans can agree that this operation largely failed. A large portion of the violence in Mexico is still caused by disputes between cartels for territory.
Thank you, Caesar. Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way because now we can lighten up a bit and talk about...
Yeah, just kind of as a closing point on this whole argument, I think, the problem is really hard to solve, and I think a lot of times in America, people kind of think it's very simple to just send the military and let them kill them all, However, it's not that simple, and you can't have a war on your streets. And even if you were, the problem is very structural. It goes far beyond just society. It's in politics. That's why you should watch Narcos Mexico. I think then you'll understand why it's not just as simple as that.
About the almost infinite number of beautiful, notable spots Mexico has to offer.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
cool
kinda.
man-made landmarks might include places like
The Basilica de Guadalupe in Mexico City,
UNAM, the oldest university in North America,
the Castle of
the
Chapultepec,
catacombs at Templo Expiatorio,
Never been there.
Biblioteca Vasconcelos,
Never been
the
there.
tunnels of Puebla,
the Plaza de Toros.
Hey, I live in the city of Puebla. I haven't been to the tunnels of Puebla.
Templo
That's
Expiatorio,
hilarious.
Biblioteca Vasconcelos,
the tunnels
Yeah, tunnels of Puebla. Never been here. I live in this city. I never ever been here.
of Puebla,
the Plaza de Toros Mexico,
the bronze sculptures of Puerto Vallarta, and if you're in for some creepy stuff,
the Casa de los Lamentos in Guanajuato,
Torture Museum of Hacienda del Cochero,
the Mummy Museum in Guanajuato.
Well,
that
that one's
creepy
kind of
doll
famous.
island
Oh
of
yeah,
Las Muñecas,
that
and
one's
Every
also
so
kind of
often,
famous.
you might come across a Malverde altar. He's the patron saint of drug cartels.
they have a patron saint for drug cartels.
I knew that.
But best for last, there are hundreds of Mesoamerican pyramids and sites. Some are possibly yet to be discovered, hidden in the jungles, but the most famous ones probably being
Cholula, which is the
Hey, yeah, that's my city as well. This is in my city. I've been here multiple times. It's a cool place. It's a cool place though.
Largest monument ever constructed according to the Guinness World
That's a lot.
Records.
Monte Alban,
Teotihuacan, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Moon.
and one of the new 7 wonders of the world, the Mayan Pyramid of Chichen
Oh wait,
Itza.
is Chichen Itza like one of the wonders of the world, like the actual wonders of the world? 7 wonders of the world. Let's see, dude. Oh yeah, Chichen Itza is right here. Hey, interesting, dude. Didn't knew that. I didn't knew that at all. The more you learn, right, about your country.
Keep in mind, we said man-made. I know a lot of you might be wondering, why didn't they talk about all the cool natural sites like the cenotes, cenotes, or the volcanoes and canyons? Well, that's because that stuff will belong in the next section, the... Mexico's land is kind of like a piñata, colorful and full of surprises.
Dude, a piñata? You really rushed this part of the script, didn't you?
Yes, I did. First of all, the country is located on the west edge where the North American plate meets the Pacific plate, making them part of the larger Ring of Fire.
The country is made up of 3 main mountain chains. The Sierra Madre Occidental, which has the largest lake, the Lake of Chapala in Jalisco. The Sierra Madre Oriental, which has the highest mountain peak, or Pico de Orizaba. And Sierra Madre del Sur, which effectively surrounds the large Mexican plateau in the middle.
A narrow flat...
Any of this, I didn't knew. Like, I didn't knew any of this stuff.
valley lies between the Chiapas Mountains, which then swings up to the flat, humid Yucatan to the southeast. Oh yeah, and don't forget the arid Baja Peninsula to the west.
At the bottom of the plateau lies the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt, where most of the seismic and volcanic activity lies. The country has about 44 volcanoes. The most violent one is considered to be the Popocatépetl, which is less than 70 kilometers away from Ciudad de Mexico. There's also the world's smallest volcano, Cuexcomate, in Puebla, at only 13 meters tall.
Aw, what a cute...
That is also in my city, and I didn't knew that. I don't know how I feel about that.
little force of destruction.
Oh, that's nothing. A volcano once randomly erupted out of a dude's farm in 1943 in Michoacan. It grew over 1,000
Didn't knew
feet
that.
tall.
Whoa! The Rio Grande River, which makes part of the border shared with Texas, is the country's longest river. However, the longest non-shared river completely in Mexico would be the Nazas Aguanabal.
Along the coast are flatter green plains.
Basically, the north part is rockier and drier with landmarks like the Barrancas del Cobre Canyon and the Sonoma Desert with the massive crater-pocketed Tecolote lava fields, whereas the south part is humid and lush with biosphere reserves and rainforests harboring thousands of animal species.
Speaking of which, Mexico ranks as the
Yeah, I just didn't knew that as well. Nothing that he mentioned, like, I knew. Nothing, like the rivers and all that. Nada, just zero. And yeah, I did knew the whole diversity thing. You know, it's kind of like what they teach you in school. Like, oh, we're for the biodiversity. That's really cool, isn't it?
fourth most biodiverse country in the planet. 10 to 12% of the world's biodiversity.
Oh, and bugs! There's a monarch butterfly sanctuary at Pátzcuaro.
And the firefly forest in Tlaxcala, as well as the national animal, the golden eagle, and the most iconic dog breed, the Chihuahua, the smallest dog.
I have 2 chihuahuas. I'll see if I can post a picture. If not, you can, like, maybe follow me on my Instagram. But yeah.
In the world, and the nearly hairless Choloscuincle, or
those dogs are expensive as hell, you know, like, even though they're kind of seen as like the Mexican dog, like, they're expensive. If you want one, that's gonna set you up. It's kind of like hairless cats and how they are like slightly expensive than, I don't know, your average cat. These are expensive dogs.
Cholo dog.
Remember we saw those dogs when I visited you, Caesar, and then yeah, that was like my second favorite part of the whole trip.
And what was your first favorite part?
The part where you introduced Esclava to me, and then remember I got a little tipsy, and then we played poker, and then I won, and then I almost fell down. And it's funny though, because Mexico also has a ton of like secret hidden natural land formations. There's that strange 153-kilometer long underground river in the Yucatan.
The Sótano de las Golondrinas in San Luis Potosí, which is the largest cave shaft
Didn't
in
know
the
that.
world.
The giant crystals in the caves of Naica.
There's even the Islas Marietas, which has a hidden beach
Same. Didn't know
inside a
that.
hole in the island.
You almost brought me there, but we couldn't go in.
Yeah, unfortunately, the weather conditions didn't permit it, but still, visit discoverpvr.com.
Yeah, I'll come back and visit someday.
Wait, can I come?
Yeah, sure. Catch.
What are these, goggles?
Yeah, you can swim there from Long Beach.
Resource-wise, Mexico is the world's largest producer of avocados, silver.
They introduced tons of new foods that would make their way across the globe, namely the big four: corn, chiles, chocolate, and tomatoes.
We would not have pizza if it wasn't for Mexico. Let that sink in.
Oh, and dear Mexico, thank you for inventing tajin and chamoy. My life was empty before this discovery.
You're
Food-wise,
welcome.
there's too much to cover, but generally speaking, there are 7 regions of cuisine. In the Yucatan Peninsula, they love the anato seeds. They have Mayan dishes like pokchuk. In the south, the tlayudas are very popular, and the chapulines.
Remember, Ken, we tried those and they were good, right?
I'm sorry, what?
You know, just to kind of note this out, nobody eats bugs. Like, it's very rare if you actually buy them to eat them. Very few people do it. At least where I live, you know, I don't know, maybe like some community, like they eat it more, but it's not like a thing. It's not like a thing.
You're fired. Anyway,
In the Baja California, there are plenty of fish dishes and other seafood. The Bajío is very popular for their guacamayas. In the north, they love cabrito is very popular in Monterrey, and they also have a big Tex-Mex.
Oh, yeah, dude. It sucks. I don't know. I honestly don't like Tex-Mex. I mean, I like Taco Bell and stuff, but like Tex-Mex food or restaurants, like I hate flour tortillas.
Influence. In the west, we eat pozole, birria, and we also invented tequila. In the center of Mexico, there's a lot of tortas, mole, and chile poblano. Economy-wise, Mexico is the 15th largest in the world in nominal terms, and 11th by purchasing power.
and they are busy. The World Trade Organization and OECD has ranked Mexico as the hardest working country in the world. On average, they work over 43 hours a week.
That's it?
That's a
Dude,
lot,
that actually
dude.
seems pretty low, to be honest.
No,
Main
that's
exports
a
of the
lot.
country include things like automobiles, electronics. They are the largest flat-screen television exporter in the world as of 2017. We covered a lot. Okay, I think that's most of it. Landscape, animals, resources, food, economy. Okay, yeah.
Should we talk about Mexican people now?
Yeah, why
Oh,
not?
I'm excited
Next
about
section,
this
go.
one.
You know, it's kind of complicated because there's 3 different kinds of titles for Mexican. First of all, you have the Mexicano, which means it's a person from Mexico. The Mexiquense is a person from the state of Mexico. And the Mexiqueño, or as we call them, Chilangos, is a person from the capital.
I didn't knew that. I mean, I just call them like Mexicans. I'm not sure if this is actually a thing. Well, Chilango, that is a word that we use. Yeah, that is true, but the other ones, I've never
Mexico
used them in my
City.
life.
So yeah, take note on that. First of all, the country is made up of about 124 million people and is the largest Spanish-speaking country and largest economy in the Latin world. It's a little difficult to get exact numbers because there are a lot of opinions
At
on
least, though.
race in Mexico, and the official census does not technically collect data on ethnicity. But overall, it is said that somewhere around 2/3 of the country identifies as Mexican mestizo, about 21% identify as predominantly Amerindian, whereas 7% identify as straight up Amerindian. The remainder is made up of other groups, mostly white European Mexicans, while a small group of Asians like Lebanese, Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans exist, alongside Afro-Mexicans, which make up about 1.2% of the population.
We use the Mexican peso as our currency, and we use type A and B American-style plug outlets, and we drive on the right side of the road. All the countries
Yep.
speak Spanish. However, technically, it isn't an official language. The country recognizes 68 other indigenous languages.
I mean, yeah, that is true, but I'm gonna remind y'all that like 95 to like 98% of Mexico speak Spanish. It's only a very small amount of people who speak like the native tongues. Like, you know, let's actually Google it. Like, how many people? I can just Google in Spanish, right? Well, in Mexico speak Spanish. Yeah, that's Spanish only, 92%. Well, it's not that bad. Spanish and indigenous languages, that's 5.7, and only indigenous languages, that is like 0.8 of like the actual population. So like, yeah, Spanish is pretty much spoken by everyone. So like, don't let this deceive you.
These tribes each have their own unique story and history that goes back thousands of years before colonialism, as depicted by petroglyphs, codexes, and Mesoamerican carvings.
They had unique traits and traditions. The Aztecs were known for having a thriving economy, yet had
The way we measure our history in Mexico is like similar in a way to America. Like, we have pre-colonial Mexico, or like pre-Spaniard Mexico. Then we have colonial Mexico, and then we have like independent Mexico. So like the independent times, which are it's the most recent timeline. The colonial Mexico, that's pretty much Spanish rule, and then we have like pre-colonial, like indigenous stuff.
Brutal human sacrifice rituals.
The Mayans were really good at math and had a unique system of seeing time in an endless cycle pattern rather than linear. And today, tribes still go on carrying ancient traditions. Everything from the Raramuri or Tarahumara, known as the running tribe, who can go over 200 miles in 2 days with sandals.
The Voladores de Papantla, upside down hanging, spinning musicians of various central tribes like the Otomís.
Could you imagine if he just like falls down?
Held every year in Oaxaca called Guelaguetza.
At around 82%, the majority of the country identifies as belonging to the Catholic faith, and Catholicism plays a huge.
Oh my God! Like 82% Catholic. That's still a lot of people, and like 95% are Christian. It's insane. It's insane how religious we are as a country. I'm not religious, so I'm on the 5% that has like other beliefs.
Slightly interesting fusion role in Mexican society.
Catholicism in Mexico is unique because it has kind of its own story. Every Mexican knows about the Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe church. It all started by a vision of the Virgin Mary from this guy.
Today, native tradition and Catholicism kind of go hand in hand in Mexico. The biggest example probably being the Day of the Dead or the Dia de los Muertos. No other Catholic community does this besides Mexicans. Many scholars claim to trace the ofrenda and dead ancestor honoring tradition.
I know this kind of seems like a big deal, and it is a big deal in Mexico, but like not everyone does it, you know? Like it's kind of hard to like, I know a lot of people who come here like expect everyone to do this, but right now it's more of a tradition thing than like actually believing this is real. And I don't do it, of
Aztec
course.
festival dedicated to the goddess of the underworld, Mictec and stuff like that. You see a lot of holy water and crosses, but there's always like a touch of that, like, you know, pre-colonial Mexican magic added in there, right, Caesar?
It is. It's exactly right. Sport-wise, soccer
or football
is, of course, widely popular. However, not in every region, and many sports are uniquely iconic to Mexico, such as the charreria, which is a kind of like a rodeo, and of course we have the lucha libre. In fact, Mexico has 150 pre-Hispanic games, some still played today, each with the risk of dying from, such as the pelota purepecha, which is like a fire hockey played at night, or pok-tapok, the 4-kilogram heavy rubber ball thing.
I mean, nobody, you gotta understand that nobody actually does this. I mean, this is a show. Like, this is a show. This is for like performance purposes. Like, this is not an actual thing that people play. Like, yeah, the same thing with like the flaming ball. Like, I've never seen that in my life. It's mostly soccer. However, there's been a big fan base for American like NFL football. I don't know why I'm really not that into it, to be honest. But you know, my dad, for example, he's like super into the NFL, so it's getting popular here. And then you have like, you know, the outliers, people who like tennis or baseball.
Thing that you have to hit,
but I've never seen someone playing
and,
this.
you know, put it through a stone hoop.
Can you imagine hitting anything on your body with a 4-kilogram solid rubber ball? It's like,
it must suck, honestly.
Mexican history extends millennia prior to any colony, and it would take forever to cover it all, but in the quickest way we can condense it, Olmecas,
Teotihuacan, Toltecas, and Mexicas. The Mayans in the Yucatan Peninsula.
The Spanish arrive, you can kind of guess where that went.
Yeah.
Colonization, having the Spanish in Mexico for 300 years.
The people all start mixing. Mestizos are born.
Independence in 1810, led by this guy.
Empire led by this Austrian prince guy. He gets killed.
French tried to invade. Yeah, that didn't work out.
Benito Juarez.
I mean, it kind of did work out. The French, I mean, part of the country was French territory at some point. I think it's Cinco de Mayo in the U.S. that's kind of celebrated as Mexico Day or like Hispanic Day, whatever. Here it's the victory we had against the French. But it was like one victory. All the other battles we lost. So I don't know. That's kind of some things I don't like about Mexican history. It's kind of bad for most of the...
Good president.
Porfirio Diaz, good president at the beginning, but eventually became a dictator.
Civil War, although Mexicans usually call it the Mexican Revolution.
Lázaro Cárdenas, the PRI, lost for the first time in over 70
that's like
years.
very recent.
Then Mexico's first left-wing president was elected in, and despite geopolitical turmoil, the economy actually still stays relatively steady and doesn't spike or dip, so that's good. And here we are today.
Some notable people of Mexico or of Mexican descent may include historical figures
Chopo, baby. They're gonna have like El Chopo and a big photo of me like that.
Figures like Moctezuma and Cuauhtémoc and Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, José María Morelos,
Josefa Oriste Dominguez, Emiliano Zapata,
Pancho Villa, athletes like
Oscar de la Hoya,
Rafa Marquez and Hugo Sanchez, soccer players,
singers like
Antonio Aguilar,
Jorge Negrete,
Pedro Infante,
Vicente Fernandez,
Luis Miguel,
Juan Gabriel. Oh, and if you ask any like American Mexican,
Oh,
they
like
all
Selena,
love
yeah.
Selena,
actors like
Dolores del Rio.
Maria Felix, Roberto Gomez Bolaños,
And even though she's not Mexican, Lupita Nyong'o was born in Mexico, and you guys
Kinda,
know her, right?
yeah,
We do.
sure.
Diego Luna,
We do.
Eugenio Derbez,
Salma Hayek,
Gael Garcia Bernal, of course everybody knows Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera,
Alejandro González Iñárritu, Alfonso Cuarón, and Guillermo del Toro.
Nobel Prize winners Alfonso Garcia Robles,
Octavio Paz.
and Mario Molina,
Some other notable people may include Carlos Canseco,
and Carlos Simhelu, whose entire net worth was about 7% of Mexico's GDP at one point. Yeah, he had a lot of business in other countries in Latin America and the world. And speaking of relations with other countries, so Mexico is quite
This one's
the
gonna
social
be
butterfly.
good.
The monarch social butterfly from Michoacan. First of all,
Okay,
in
cut it out,
Asia, the Philippines are another former Spanish colony, and they're kind of like the interesting random Asian cousin that shows up that
Yeah, I know what does he mean with that. However, nobody in Mexico knows that the Philippines used to be a Spanish colony. I can guarantee you, nobody knows. So yeah, there's no attachment when it comes to
you
that.
didn't realize you had. They generally get along, just not in boxing.
Japan was the first Asian country to come in contact with Latin America, and today they can travel visa-free. Japan has opened up factories in Mexico and was the first country to respond after the recent earthquake, and Mexico was the first to send aid after the recent tsunami.
In Latin America,
Oh, really?
most Mexicans
Yeah, I would also say Japan. A lot of people have like this weird fixation for Japan, and lately for Korea too. You know, there's a lot of people into the shit of like K-pop and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just like there's a lot of people into that.
might say the countries of the Pacific Alliance, Colombia, Chile, and Peru. These
Nah,
countries
fuck
have
them.
not
We
only
hate-
had a
we
time
hate every
history
single
under
one of
Spanish
them.
rule and do great business
No,
with
that-
each
that's
other,
a lie.
but they also piggyback off of each other.
I think if you ask most Mexicans, like they don't really care. They probably like don't even know where Peru is. However, yeah, I guess like there could be like close friends. We usually make a lot of jokes about all these countries, and they probably make jokes about us. But yeah, I think it's kind of like good relationship.
There's cultures, and they love watching Mexican TV shows and movies. Mexicans love visiting these places. It's almost like they're just visiting
Yeah,
an extended
sometimes.
family.
In regards to Spain, all the colonial animosity has died down, fortunately. We're cool now with Spanish people, and they love visiting Mexico.
Like we mentioned in the Canada episode, Mexicans have been flocking to Canada in recent years after the visa requirements were lifted.
And the Canadian government
That's true though. I think if you, I'm gonna have like a guess, and I think if you ask Mexicans like what's the like favorite country, I think a lot of people would say Canada.
actually encourages immigration to help assist the workforce.
Now we reach the U.S.
Oh.
I know, you've heard the headlines. It seems kind of complicated, but if we look at the overall scope of diplomacy, despite any political hindrances, the U.S. and Mexico always seem to have an unbreakable bond that still survives.
The US has somewhere around 11 million Mexicans living in it today, which makes up the largest migrant group out of all immigrants. About 80% of Mexico's exports go to the US, and the US makes up about half of Mexico's imports.
They cooperate very closely in international affairs, usually backing up similar Western values that the U.S. stands by, and overall, no matter
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be so surprised how Americanized Mexico now is, especially like the big cities. Like if you're an American, you would probably feel comfortable like living, other than maybe crime, but I don't think there's any like big city in Mexico that's like more dangerous than like I don't know, Detroit or St. Louis. There are a lot of dangerous parts in the rural areas where like all the narco shit goes on, but I think cities for the most part are like relatively safe. And yeah, I think the way I look at the U.S. is, you know, a country that we are linked tremendously because of our history, because of like their economic influence, and I think we're definitely like on America's side, whatever that is. However, I'm not gonna lie, I think a lot of people in Mexico don't feel the greatest about the U.S. Again, because of historical reasons, because of like just conspiracy behavior, like, kind of the U.S. Controls Mexico. And I mean, in a way, it's kind of true, like if you look at that in economic sense. But yeah, a lot of people in Mexico just don't like the U.S. I personally do.
No matter how crazy things get, they can't help but be there for each other in the end. In conclusion, Caesar, what do you think you would say about Mexico?
Well, it's almost as if the people of Mexico kind of laugh at the face of destruction. We have volcanoes, earthquakes, drama, but we colorfully play and dance with death. It doesn't bother us. If anything, ironically, it fuels us with even more life.
Very well said. Stay tuned. Micronesia, the Federated States of Micronesia, is coming up next.
Okay, that was it. I honestly had a great time watching this video. Talking about the place you live, it's always like nice. There are some times that like I don't like about this country or this place, but I think it's still a really nice made video. So, I'll see you later.